Hello guys. So we're going to be talking about Jesus and Peter walking on the water. Okay. So we're in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verse 28 to 33. And I'm going to read it out loud to you guys. And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. And when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." And so this beautiful thing really shows, one, that Jesus can command water, okay? He can command the water to hold him, just as he can command water to freeze. Like he could blow on a lake and it would freeze, like in the book of Job. Or that he could cause the lake to melt back into liquid form. He could also command the springs from under the earth to burst up and flood the earth. He could command the rain, like he could command the rain to fall down at his will. And also a great example of this about having water hold weight, okay? Having water hold weight. So in Kings, in 2 Kings, where we hear about the story of Elisha, okay? And then the servant who was chopping wood, and then the axe head, which is made out of iron, is very heavy, okay? It's an axe head, okay, to chop trees. It's really heavy. It fell off the handle and into the water and sunk, okay? It sunk into the water, okay? You could read this in 2 Kings. It's totally fun. And then the guy, he was like, "Oh no, it was borrowed." And then Elisha was like, "Where did it sink?" And then the guy was like, "In the water right there." And then Elisha threw a piece of wood into the water, and then the axe head floated. Basically, the water went under the axe head, and then by the command of God's word, pushed the axe head up and floated and carried the weight of the axe head, okay? So that is also an amazing parallel if you want to hear a modern day time of God doing something like that. Okay, so remember the miracle on the Hudson, right? Have you watched that Sully movie where he flew the plane and then there was like no place for him to land, so he landed on the Hudson River? So that was also the hand of God in that modern time news, okay? And so the plane was floating on the Hudson River, and there was also 155 something people standing on top of the metal steel plane, okay? And so God's hand was under that plane, and he was commanding the water to keep the plane from sinking. And so that was a beautiful modern day parallel to the story of Elisha and about how God still commands the water to hold weight. Isn't that so amazing? Okay, so now, and it also talked about in the Psalms, somewhere in the Psalms, where it says that the Lord is the one who walks in the recesses of the deep. No, that's in Job. But in Psalms it says somewhere that his footsteps are unseen. He walks on the water and his footsteps are unseen. Yeah, that's Psalm 77. Okay. But yeah, you guys could find it. It's so fun. But anyway, Peter is quite a character, okay? So he has quite a broad understanding of Jesus' command over the earth, okay? So we all know that God is the Lord of all the earth also. And there are times in Exodus where he would do these signs and wonders so that Pharaoh and all of Egypt would know what? That he is the Lord of all the earth. So him, by commanding the frogs, commanding the Nile to turn blood red, by commanding the gnats to come out of nowhere from the dust in the ground, commanding the hail to come down, he is showing that he is Lord of the earth. And so, Peter here, he said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. Okay, so Peter knows that, considering that Jesus is the Lord of the earth, that he could command at the command of Jesus, okay, at the command of his word, if he calls for something or someone to come, then nothing in all creation could stop that person from coming, okay? So, but he calls the lightning to come, and they come and say, here we are, Lord. That's how powerful he is. He commands things to come, or people to come, and they come and stand before him. And so Peter knows that if Jesus commands him to come to him on the water, then the water will, to fulfill that command, must hold Peter's weight. Do you guys hear this? That when Jesus commands someone to come to him, when Jesus speaks a word, then the whole earth and the angels in heaven, they flood in to fulfill that word, okay? To make that word come to pass. And so Peter is saying here, if you command me to come to you, Lord, on the water, then this water is going to hold my weight. This water is going to hold me. It is. And so that's what happened. Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water, and the water held his weight because the water was being obedient to the command of Jesus, okay? Because Peter made it very clear that he's like, Lord, tell me to come to you on the water. So, yeah. So Peter was like, I'm going to come to you, Lord, but you better make sure the water is involved as well. The water has to be involved. And so that is really cool. That's a really cool request that Peter made. Like, that's really broad understanding right there. However, when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. So what's going on here is that he got distracted. And distraction, so for example, you're walking on a path, okay? A straight path. You're walking, and then you get distracted. And when you get distracted, you veer off the path. And when you veer off the path, you're veering off the command, because the command is to go straight, to go to Jesus, okay? The command is not come to me, but before you come to me, go and pick some flowers on the road, and then go to the bakery. And then it's like your parents telling you to come home, but before you come home, go grab the milk at Trader Joe's, and then go to farmer's market and grab some broccoli, and then blah, 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 and then come home. No, like when Jesus has come, he's like, straight come on that command, and you're walking on that command road, okay? I hope like I'm being very clear. Holy Spirit, please help them. Please give them understanding, just as you told me. Please let them know too. And so when Peter get distracted, or when any of us get distracted, then we are being like those who are like, okay, before I go home, I'm going to go pick some flowers here, and then go there, and then go there. And before you know it, we forget to go home. It's like midnight, and you're just like, oh man, I went past my curfew. Yeah. Oh no. So what happened here was that instead of looking straight at Jesus, okay, because the command was to come to Jesus, which means you have to look straight at Jesus, okay? If you think about it this way, so Jesus commanded the lightning to come to him. You could bet the lightning comes straight to Jesus. The lightning is not like, oh my goodness, there is beautiful Mount Everest right there. I must go and like shimmer over there for a bit. And then I must go to this Pacific Ocean and spark a little over there for a bit. And then I will come to Jesus. No, it's not like that. That's not how it works. Jesus commands something or someone to come, and they come straight to him. And oh my goodness, that is so wonderful. So when we get distracted, then we veer off the path, and that's why Peter sunk, okay? Because the water was holding him to get to Jesus. But when he got distracted from Jesus, then he sunk on the parts, I guess, of the water that he veered off the road. Let's say it that way, okay? He went off the road and then he sunk because the water made a path that was straight to Jesus and only to Jesus. And so he was like, Lord, save me. And now what a lot of people don't say about this right here, they always talk about how Jesus doubted and then he sunk, but they don't realize this really beautiful, hopeful thing, okay? So full of hope, guys, because guess what? Just like Peter messed up, we all can mess up. None of us could be like, oh, we never do what Peter did, like all of us get distracted. All of us mess up and veer off that path, and all of us can sink at times, okay? So there is hope here for all of us, just as there was hope for Peter. So when Peter sunk, right here, it's so beautiful. Jesus immediately, not be like, oh, Peter, let me just watch you sink for 10 minutes, No, he immediately reached his hand and pulled Peter out of the situation, out of sinking to death. And then here's a beautiful thing. He reached out his hand and took hold of him, and said, oh, you have little faith, why did you doubt? And when they got into the boat, here's the thing that is not mentioned here, but it is very obvious that it happened. So the moment Jesus pulled Peter out, he held Peter's hand and walked Peter back to the boat. So Peter walked on water twice here. He walked on water to get to Jesus. Almost got there. Almost. And then he walked with Jesus back on the water. Okay? He walked with Jesus again back on the water to get back into the boat. So Peter walked on water twice here. So he basically did the impossible twice here. So what I'm saying here is that when we get distracted, when we feel guilty and upset and sad that we lacked in faith and that we failed, and just know that Jesus immediately pulls you out of that pit of despair, because despair can really kill a Christian. Like, despair is awful. You don't want to be there. Despair, guilt, shame, all those things are like cages. And then the devil whispers, oh, there's no more hope, blah, 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 blah. No, Jesus immediately pulls us out before we lock ourselves up in a cage of despair. And then we, with Jesus now, walk on water again, doing the impossible again, fighting the storm again, defeating Goliath again, to get back into that boat where we can have that beautiful communion with God right here. And it says when they're in the boat, they worshiped him. So there are many things that would try to get us to veer off from that path towards communion with God, which is Jesus and you inside the boat. And it's an awesome place of deep communion, and it's beautiful, and you're worshiping him. And the world and the devil and all these things would try to get you out of that place. But then the beautiful part is that even though we face darkness and we face those valleys, what did David say in the Psalms? Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, yet I will fear no evil, for you are with me. So it's beautiful that Jesus is not only with us in the boat, in our times of perfect communion, where we're worshiping him and we're strong in the faith and we're standing firm and we're having a good day, but he's also with us in the storm. He's also with us when we're attempting the impossible, walking on the water. And you'd be like, well, I never walked on water. There are probably times when we face things, we face persecution, we face like some people would get fired for doing this or that, for being righteous. Sometimes we suffer for being righteous. Sometimes we suffer for being a Christian. We suffer for our viewpoints, our biblical viewpoints. And then people would look at us who don't believe. They would look at us and be like, how did you survive that? You know? How did you survive going through that? And you'd be like, I had Jesus with me in the storm. We walked on water together. Yeah. So some people, they've lost a family member or they lost their house. There are people in India right now who lost all their possessions and their houses just for their faith in Jesus. And yeah, people would look at them and be like, how do you persist? Why do you hold on to your faith? How do you have this strength and this courage and this boldness? And we'd be like, it's Jesus walking with us. He's teaching us to walk on water. He's teaching us to do the impossible, which is to remain calm in times of turbulence where other people would be like, we are supposed to be freaking out right now. If I were in your situation, I would freak out. But yet you look so peaceful and so calm. Why? And then we tell them, it is Jesus. So yeah, guys. I hope that really opened up that little passage for you and really increased your faith, knowing that water is Jesus' servant. Water is Jesus' servant. That is so cool. If you really think about that, it's gonna blow your mind. Have fun, guys. Bye-bye.